From island to island in Canada. That's what we're doing today. David Hutchison, Darren Millard, and in between, slightly favoring Hutch is Kevin Woodley. It's InGoal Radio, the podcast, PEI to Vancouver Island. How are you, Hutch?
I'm fantastic. It's a beautiful day on the west coast on the island, and it looks like it's a beautiful day on the east coast.
We got some fog. We're just on the Northumberland Strait. You know what I realized this week? I discovered that a great white shark went just right by my cottage last summer on those shark tracking apps. Discovered that I'm not very comfortable with that.
Woody will not be swimming by you.
Woody's my therapist when it comes to sharks.
It's okay. Just make sure you're in a cage. Oh, say, can you surf there? This is there's no surf up there.
You can on the north side of the island, on the Atlantic side, more during the winter when the waves get up, but not. You couldn't even boogie board. You couldn't do anything on the waves on the straight side where the bridge goes across.
Okay. I think I have seen some like East Coast maritime surfing, but like I'm thinking that in the winter she might be a bit chilly.
Yeah, they do all those great dry suits and they're out there, but the waves are good. And I actually have a pamphlet from some winter surfing beaches on PEI that I will not bore you with right now. It's InGoal Radio, the podcast, brought to you by the Hockey Shop, source for sports Langley, thehockeyshop.com. We have some great stuff coming your way. The NHL Sense Arena feature interview is Alex Cavallini from the USA Women's National Team, two-time Olympian, multiple world championship participant. The Stop It Goaltending U app parent segment will go back to Bill Ranford. And the Hockey Shop gear segment deals with the Bauer KONEKT 2 skate, along with Pete Fry's summer tour that's underway.
There is a lot. Like people like on my radio hits each week, they're like, oh, everybody's going on vacation. It's downtime. And I'm like, things are just heating up in the goalie world. Maybe this is why goalies got ahead of everybody else, because we're just getting going. Pete Fry has already hit Ottawa. He's already hit Toronto. His Goalie Mindset Power Live will be in Calgary on July 13th and then wraps up here in Vancouver on July 20th. And of course, for our listeners, we have a virtual. You can attend it virtually. Don't have to be in person. The downside is if you're there in person, you get on the ice with him and you run through all the mindset and pre-face-off routines and all the different elements that go into the building a consistent hype level, a consistent focus, making sure that you're ready to go on every drop of the puck, which will make you a more consistent goaltender. So they go through it in the classroom. So even if you can't join us, you'll learn all those key elements from Pete Fry. And if you are able to join us in person in Vancouver, there are still a few seats available. You'll get to go on the ice and run through it all. Last summer, we had Dylan Ferguson leading us through it. So he's in the KHL now, but like those are the clients that Pete Fry works with right up to the National Hockey League. And oftentimes they stop by to join and take part in these Goalie Mindset Power Live seminars.
There's a little for everyone in those seminars, and you may not utilize it all, but one or two just pillars are unbelievable to your goaltending foundation.
Yeah, and I think it's worth pointing out that we've had young goaltenders, and I'm talking sort of 8-9 years old at Pete's seminars. We've had a number of beer leaguers join in as well. And one thing Pete does, mums and dads, if you sign up your son or daughter as a student at one of the live seminars, and if there's space in the room, Pete will welcome you in as well to be part of it. You don't need to go buy a separate one for yourself. Great chance for you to learn what he's doing with your children, how you can support them, and so on. So fantastic deal. And everybody at the live seminars gets a free year of InGoal magazine.
That's a gift that keeps on giving. So you attend the seminar, you can tag along, you can be informed as long as you're a young goaltender. You don't have to go sit in the bad coffee shop downstairs. I shouldn't say that. Probably has good coffee, but you can actually be involved. And you get to have the InGoal subscription. That's amazing.
And you can sit down and learn from InGoal and learn along with your kids all year long, which we think is a great way to go as parents.
I was going to say, like, the gift that keeps on giving has been giving a lot of late. Over at ingoalmag.com, we've had a ton of content over the past couple of weeks. In addition to continuing our pro reads every week, there's a great one with Alex Lyon of the Detroit Red Wings that's up. We had Bill Ranford of the Los Angeles Kings sharing his left shoulder dominant back of net system with us in an on-ice demonstration, 15-minute video there. An hour-long Q&A from Tendy Fest 6 with the Hockey Shop and Bill Ranford, where he was answering all kinds of questions he mentioned will tie into the parent segment this week. Connor Hellebuck wins his second Vezina trophy. We've got a list of all the articles that we have over the years with Connor, including pro reads, but also including some great off-ice training with Adam Francilia, the trainer who has worked with Hellebuck since before the first Vezina trophy and now has more than a dozen NHLers working with him, including Stuart Skinner, including Thatcher Demko. So he's got a video series on that'll sort of help you with train the muscles to avoid counter rotation. That's teased in the Connor Hellebuck article. We have the Bobrovsky Ballet, his Finnish trainer, weighing in on the warm-up that we captured on video earlier this year, all the edge work he does, all the crease work he does, some of the keys to it, and you can watch more than 10 minutes of video. And then last but certainly not least, a Pro Gear with the launch of the CCM XF Pro Stick now public. We can share some of the stick taping sessions we had last summer. And we started with Devin Levi and a pretty cool way of taping your knob. I'd never seen it before, according to our audience. Many of you have, but a lot of people, this was new, and it's got over 2 million views on our social media channel since we launched a teaser of Devin Levi taping his stick. So there is a ton of content up at InGoalMag.com over the last couple of weeks, and it's going to keep coming.
I had never seen that approach by Levi.
I have this vague memory of learning it before, but one person who had seen it before was Eddie Lack, who mentioned on social that he had watched the video and he had actually learned that technique from his goalie partner in Vancouver, Roberto Luongo.
So I'm a little disappointed that Roberto never showed us, although back then when Lou was here, we had just started and we weren't doing this kind of stuff, or I'm sure he would have been one of the first to say, oh yeah, this is how I do it. So I thought it's amazing. You never know what content's going to take off. You spend all this time curating content, lessons and tips and all these things. And Devin Levi shows what for a lot of people is a new way to tape the stick. And like I said, like almost 900,000 on Instagram views, over 1.2 million views on TikTok already. Like we are well over 2 million views on just those two formats. Devin Levi, you've gone viral. Good job with the stick taping.
So simple. And it just looks cool. I can't wait to do it, to try that out.
I'm doing it tonight. I got my first skate in 3 months, and I'm definitely taping the stick that way.
Okay, so let's get into your approach. Haven't skated in a while. What's your mindset? What are your expectations going into what is a high-level scrimmage or pickup skate?
It is survive. Make sure the hips are open. I'll use James Wendland's 5 damn things on my hips, which I also did when I was in Honolulu for surfing, and it made a huge difference. I will definitely use James Wendland's techniques to sort of get my body ready to play. I will probably this afternoon throw on a little Sense Arena because I haven't seen a puck in 3 months, and I'm a little behind on the Sense Arena work just to sort of at least get that sensation and sort of get my head on pucks and try and track. And then I'm just going to make sure that I go out and have fun. I'm going to stay deep and make it so that my life is simple and my paths are short to pucks. And I'm going to try and be patient and have a lot of fun and try not to get killed.
Those are great skates because you never see a shot outside of 10 feet. You don't have to worry about anything from distance in those kind of swirls.
I kind of hope that I see a few from outside of 10 feet because it's going to be a lot of close the eyes and hope. I'm going to be, if they're all inside 10 feet there, and I'm going to be playing a little bit of goal and a whole lot of hit me.
That just breakaways and 2-on-1s and everybody's working to get a good shot selection.
Great summer skate stuff.
I know it. Yeah, I know it. It'll be awesome. Let's get over to our gear segment brought to you by the Hockey Shop, source for sports Langley, thehockeyshop.com. And this is a highly anticipated review and a look at the Bauer K2 skate, the KONEKT 2, the ski boot skate.
The ski boot now in all black. And we've seen this. Andrei Vasilevsky, I believe, was one of the first to wear it. And so it's now live. It's at retail. And Cam's going to fill us in on all the details. I want to plug this one element, though, right away up front. available in intermediate sizes. It was definitely one of the questions as the original Konekt became more and more popular and got more and more accepted, and we saw more and more NHLers wear it, and we started to hear all the feedback about sort of less pain, less tension, less aches in the ankles, the knees, and the hips from these NHLers. More people wanted to be in it, but it was only available in senior sizing. So that's one of the highlights of the new Konekt 2 as they brought it down to intermediate sizing. For the rest of the details, let's go to the expert over at the Hockey Shop. Here's Cam.
Welcome back to the Hockey Shop, source for sports, where Cam can't stop playing with buckles or annoying the living. Cam, you know that? Oh, they're not sharpened.
No, they're not.
I could have.
But it's the new Konekt 2, and it's all black.
You cut me off. I was about to say they're not sharpened, but boy, are they sharp.
Wow.
It's a good looking skate.
Yeah, we are back. With
Konekt
something
2.
fancy.
Streamlined.
Yes.
Considerably streamlined from the original.
And fancy look. I mean, we've been sitting there doing this because it just looks so...
Well, you've been playing with the buckles because you're like a golden retriever. Squirrel?
Yeah, we'll go with that.
Okay. So, what's new? What's changed on the Konekt 2?
Well, let's start with what I was playing with.
The buckles.
Yes. So they've changed around a little bit. Since Konekt 1, one of the, I would guess you'd call it minor issues that came up was every now and then that bottom buckle would catch and flip up mid-play. So with these guys here, it actually snaps down. You have to push that little push button. It even says push on it if you look really closely.
Who is it?
And then unlocks.
Hold on, Cam. I got bifocal contacts. I'm an old man.
It has to work on that eyesight. But that's okay.
It does say push. Look at that.
Yeah, look at that.
Wow. Even us old guys can read that.
So while we had it upside down too, we saw that they're now using their Pulse TI steel on the skate as well. Before, it was just a stainless steel that they had for the Konekt. Now it's their Pulse TI stuff. So that's their...
Pulse TI Goalie, it says. Cam, see, I can read that.
Yes, because there is a Pulse TI player as well. So that's their titanium coated steel.
So that's it's your highest price point skate for Bauer. Yes. So it makes sense you've got your highest price point steel included.
Yes.
That's an upgrade.
Correct.
Okay.
So
buckle breakage was an issue.
Yes. So what it was is those buckles on the bottom, they weren't stamped properly. They've changed the way that they actually mount this buckle. Again, hey, heaven forbid something does happen. These are replaceable and very easy to take in and out. But so far, so good. Much better durability than we've seen in the past.
Okay. It feels sleeker, more...
Lighter.
How much lighter?
So when we're talking about a size 8 skate, we're coming in at 900 grams. For a reference point, a Bauer Pro skate is 825 in a size 8.
How much? So this is lighter than the original Konekt.
This is lighter than
Which makes sense. Again, yes. It was a bit of a... We called it a ski boot because that's what it's designed after. And it was bulky. This one actually looks more like a goalie skate, but with still the ski boot features.
I think we're just used to that as a goalie skate now. I think that's more so what it is.
What else has changed?
Okay, so now let's talk about the fitment. We've been able to, or Bauer's been able to kind of create a bit of a wider fit protocol with this skate. So we have a couple more tools in the bank now that we can actually, for those wider feet that first tried on the Konekt 1, had a little bit of a problem with the overall fit for sure. It just was too tight on the sides and whatnot. Now,
we saw Connor Ingram actually remove the buckle over the top of
to kind of create, again, there were certain things that we could do to try and get there for sure. But with this now, I got a couple of tools in the box now. Again, it's a fit for most, not all, 100%. There's still going to be, some folk out there that just won't fit the skate.
Your feet are too fat.
Well, it could be that.
He won't say it, I will.
It could be a volume issue too as well. Like, for example, with my own personal problems with skates. So, again.
Cam has hooves.
There we go. We'll call it that. That said, you're still bringing that same Gorilla Mid liner, super thermomoldable, along with their Ultralon actual liners for their skate themselves. Again, all of this translate into the ability to get almost that custom fit from molding to your foot all in store.
So you still go through the same process. You got to wear gloves, heat it up.
They do get piping hot. That's a problem for me, but...
Okay, so it really is a custom molded fit. Is there anything different in the liner? Has it changed at all?
No, but we have some fancy new colors and whatnot that we'd love to show off to you. Let's see if we can get some of those to just appear out of nowhere. Oh my goodness. We have a red liner. We have a green liner. We have a silver liner that he dropped. Silver liner. There we go.
I would have got it. I second time round.
There's even a sport gold liner. It's just not here yet.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah. So if you want to go bold, why not? You can change those liners out easily. Some guys even run 2, have a break in between your periods, swap it out, and you got a fresh skate.
That we saw that increasingly in the National Hockey League. There is one last call out on this.
Go for it.
Will you tell me what it's called?
Oh, the flex inhibitor.
The flex inhibitor.
So that's just a little hole that's in behind. We can show that one off afterwards. You can't see it here, but on the inside, we mount a little bit of a helmet screw and then the backing, and that will stop the flex at about 5-10 degrees, I think it is.
Okay, so we've talked about the hinge profile on this in the original KONEKT. I feel like we almost assuming that a lot of people know what the original KONEKT was about, but that's sort of the ability to have like a built-in hinge to give you forward flex. Some goalies
degrees of pitch
at the National Hockey League level, like there's already a degree of flex in this just courtesy of having a boot and a liner separated, and they felt like that extra forward flex was too much. Increasingly at the National Hockey League level, what they did was they pinned it in the back with a screw. So now they've just basically called that out and let people know, because not everybody wants the full 22 degrees of forward flex. But you can get a lot of the benefits that we heard from a ton of goalies at the National Hockey League level, whether it's Semyon Varlamov, Devin Cooley, talking about knee, ankle, and hip pain dissipating when they switched over to this
Remember,
skate.
folks, this is our NHL connection to every single change room in the NHL.
No, bite me, Cam. But so that's sort of, not all of them had the full forward flex. I just felt that the nature of the boot itself decreased some of that locked in feel that was causing tension in the rest of it. So that's a big call out. And lastly, but certainly not least,
the intermediate sizing?
It's no longer just for adults. They've got intermediate sizing. This was
down to size 4.
This was a big request after the original KONEKT launch. Now the younger goalies with smaller feet can get into it as well.
So size 4 to 6. Keep in mind, remember, no half sizing with these boots. It's always in full sizing. And again, that's because due to the way the sizing process is and how we mold the skate and whatnot, I can definitely accommodate for that extra half size. So,
Bauer KONEKT 2.
Yeah, if you have any questions, give us a call here at 604-589-8299 or 1-800-567-7790, or check us out at thehockeyshop.com.
Can I email you, Cam?
I can email the shop.
Oh, I thought we were going to get his private email. I thought you people were special, but evidently Cam doesn't think so.
Oof. Oh, every single one of you that watches this video is special to me.
The all black skate with the K2 goes right down to the part that touches the ice. Touch.
I know. It's like blacked out from the top of the line steel in there now. That Pulse TI steel has sort of got that black sheen on the outside, the black holder, the black skate. It's the look I love when you see it on a vehicle on the road. Just love those blacked out cars. So now we got blacked out boots. I think it just looks fantastic. But I also kind of think it's cool that you've got those new liners you can put into if you want that little touch of color on the side as well. So 4 different colors you can add if you want your own little touch. Love that skate. think it's beautiful.
You could have home and away. You could go blacked out or silver for you could mix and match here, because Cam talked about that, right? Like a lot of goalies at the highest level will have multiple sets of liners just so they can slip in a dry one, right? So it's like we see goalies dry their gloves in between periods if you wanted to, especially because the KONEKT is so easy to pop in and out of, and because you don't have to worry about the tension being different every time like you do when you're tying your skate laces. Oh, I got to get it just right. You have your buckle settings, you click it in, it's the same every time. It's really easy to swap out a dry liner. Whether you're a young kid who's at a tournament for the weekend and you know how it is, you don't have time to dry your equipment between games. That's one reason to buy a second liner. In the National Hockey League, we've got guys that have multiple sets of liners, even between, within a game. So there's lots to like about this game. Cam's going to kill me for sharing this, but that black holder that is, love it or leave it. Some people love the look of blacked out. I think Darren's more of a white holder guy, but that black holder on the Bauer KONEKT 2 is available separately if you wanted to create your own all black lookout without buying the complete skate. I apologize,
Sorry,
Cam.
Cam.
I'm not sure you wanted. I'm not sure you wanted to be changing over a whole bunch of people to black holders, but you can buy that separately now.
Now, can you put a white holder on the K2?
You could.
I guess
in
you
theory,
probably
yeah.
could.
Yeah, but I mean, they're on there with rivets. So just like it, like I was going to say, any skate except the true one piece, you absolutely could swap that out. And I got to say, the one thing I will say is we've got a whole bunch of new reviews coming from the Hockey Shop. Me and Hutch spent a bunch of time there last week. The KONEKT 2, which is launched, you can go in, you can try it, you can check it out online, you can buy it right now, have been able to for a couple of weeks, was just one of many new pieces of equipment that's come in since we last checked in with Cam. We're going to have the new CCM Axis XF stick. We talked about Devin Levi taping it. That's out. Very popular. Stuart Skinner, Thatcher Demko raving to me about how much they like that stick. That's available. CCM Axis XF pants we went through. One of the more comfortable and out of the box, ready to play pants that I've had on in a while. We've got other new products. Second price points from True, from Bauer, from CCM. We're going to do a full overview of the Axis XF line. There's a ton of stuff coming, and there's a ton of stuff right now at the Hockey Shop and thehockeyshop.com. So make sure you check them out, whether it's in person out in Langley at their new 30,000 square foot space or online at thehockeyshop.com.
If the Langley operation is 30,000 square feet, how many square feet is .com?
Ooh. Infinite. It's infinite. Although,
Infinite.
yeah, because it's more because they've grown so much that I believe there is a secondary storage space they have for
an offsite storage space
where they have to bring stuff in and rotate it through, even though they've expanded so much and they have so much floor space. If you've ever seen the sort of, how the sausage is made behind the scenes, it's not chaotic. It's just busy. It's very well organized, but they are just constantly grabbing items, packaging them, and shipping them on an endless basis. Between that and the team sales, which I don't think we ever talk about here, but like associations, beer league, my beer league team sweaters are from there, custom jerseys, custom bat, like they do everything in that space.
I think I want to be the warehouse manager for the Hockey Shop.
I think you'd be really tired by the end of the day, Darren. It's
I feel like that's a big job.
Seriously, it's impressive not just the warehouse, but even when we're doing these film sessions, you'll see people come out of the back room on an almost steady basis with order sheets in their hands, pulling gear right off the shelves, not just out of the warehouse. And I'm always just imagining if I've seen that many people come to grab gear for online orders while we're filming there, how much is happening in the back room, how much is happening all day long. The .com is a lot of square feet, Darren.
Darren just wants to play with the gear. I don't know that, like, he wants to be the manager,
That's
but
exactly
he just wants to pull it out of the boxes and play with it. Unlike me, though, Darren, if you were the actual warehouse manager, you'd have to put it back. I've got Cam to follow me around and put it back on the shelves. You wouldn't have that.
I wouldn't be very productive, but I get a couple of buddies over there taking shots in the big warehouse. It'd be amazing.
I got another email this week from a long-time InGoal reader, John Coleman, who is coming up from Connecticut to British Columbia, and he's going to be making a pilgrimage to the Hockey Shop to see Cam and just check out all that gear. So we've had friends from Australia come up, and we've now got friends from the East Coast of the United States. It's a destination in Vancouver. Should probably have Cam on the front of all the Vancouver tourist brochures now.
Yes, I agree. And then we could do a skit with Woody drawing a mustache on him.
Yeah, because I don't think, because we saw during November that he can't grow one, so I definitely got to draw it.
Ouch.
Our NHL Sense Arena feature interview coming up with Alex Cavallini. But right now, the Stop and Goaltending U app parent segment is going to go back to Bill, the Tendy Fest Q&A with Bill Ranford. But first, a message from Stop and Goaltending U, the app.
Well, the first message is when you buy Stop and Goaltending U, the app, you get an automatic subscription to InGoal magazine. So the best of both worlds. You get everything we bring you at InGoal combined with the world's most comprehensive app for goalies, goalie parents, and goalie coaches. And I've walked you through how there's daily content that comes up, small format, nice and easy, small digestible chunks. You can just filter through it, 1 minute primers Monday through Friday, just real quick videos, or you can do the deep dive on every week they have a new 20-minute full video. But you can also go back through the archives. Like every month they launch a goalie playbook, and this walks you through some of the specifics of how certain goalies at various levels play certain situations. So, for example, from Aaron Frankel to Anthony Stolarz, now with the Toronto Maple Leafs, Alex Lyon, who we just had on the podcast, Jeremy Swayman, they've all been profiled in the goalie playbook. And so you click on it and then they break through different elements. There's one on how Jeremy Swayman approaches breakaways. So if you want to get a glimpse at how the best in the business approach their game, there's nothing better than a subscription to Stop It Goaltending U app, which comes with a subscription to InGoal magazine, InGoalMag.com, because nowhere can you get those types of breakdowns. They walk through their game, and then in a lot of cases, we've already had them on Pro Read, so they explain it in first person. So what a great tool for sort of getting to study the position through the eyes of how others approach it. Stop It Goaltending U, the app, and now bringing you a free subscription to InGoal magazine and InGoalMag.com at the same time. Combine those two things. Spend a couple minutes a day, go down the rabbit hole and spend an hour a day. Either way, you're going to be a better goaltender for it, no matter what level you play at.
I'm just not sure there's enough time in the world for a combination of surfing over at the InGoal magazine as InGoalMag.com or at Stop It Goaltending U, the app. Like that's a lot of information there.
Well, that's what I like about it. You can pick and choose. Like, just spend a week going through the 1 minute primers or dig into some of the longer format stuff. Whether you want to just grab little tidbits or you want to go all in, we got a couple minutes for you, or we got a couple hours, or we got a couple days.
Hutch, jumping off the Bill Ranford Q&A at TendyFest.
Yeah, Bill brought us a little tip last week when we were talking about goalies who are maybe frustrated with teammates. It was a specific question from the Q&A about what do I do when my teammate scores on me. I loved Bill had so many good tips for parents as part of that full hour Q&A that InGoal members can watch over at InGoalMag.com. He had so many good tips that I thought we'd go to the well again and pull another one out this week. And this week, I would like to talk about being a goalie parent and dealing with negative talk about your child. One parent at the Q&A was asking specifically about this situation. What do I do? And as goalie parents, we know that, that could be out and out chirping of a goaltender, sadly, on the ice, even in minor hockey from the stands. Sometimes it's that quiet chitter chatter that happens in the stands that you as a parent know is happening about your child. And that can be uncomfortable. I can't say that in minor hockey, we had to endure this too much with our kid, but we certainly saw it happen. And now that he's playing it at a higher level, he sure gets it from the crowd a lot. But maybe we can save that for another segment when we talk about supporting our kid dealing with the chirps that are coming from the stands. But first, before I get into my little bit, guys, let's just listen to what Bill had to say.
So here's a funny story. My only All-Star game I played at was with Chicago, and Eddie Belfour was the big superstar there at the time, and I got voted in ahead of him, and my wife and I were walking on the bus, and there's some reporter behind us kind of chirping a little bit and stuff, and she accidentally stepped back on his foot with her high heels. So that was her way of dealing with it. But I think the goalie parent is probably one of the toughest, because everybody hears it. Goal gets scored. Oh, everybody's groaning. Just sit in your own area. Find a nice quiet spot. Cheer your son on. Don't listen to the noise. I think that's the best way, because you're going to hear it. It's the toughest thing. Parents ask me that all the time. I said, just try and find a quiet spot, because it's going to happen.
It's amazing to me to think that a parent, or in this case, a spouse, would have to deal with this even at the National Hockey League level. But then when you think about it, guys, it kind of makes sense, because when you hop on social media, you listen to talk radio, even a broadcast of a game, we live in an environment where people really like to pick these young athletes apart. And many of them really are so young. I mean, you could play in the National Hockey League at 18 and have somebody picking your game apart. And as much as somebody might say, well, he's getting well paid, he should put up with it. It's hard for any person to deal with it at any age. And I find as my son gets closer in age to these kids that are playing pro now, I find it increasingly uncomfortable watching things like the draft to see how we're picking these young men apart. And I find that attitude filters down to minor hockey, sadly, even if it's not intentional, as people start picking kids apart. So first off, I wanted to give Woody some credit here today, guys, because from day one of InGoal, he has wanted everything we do to be positive. So he writes articles that talk about goalies and coaches and what it is that they do well. He's not talking about what they're not doing well. He specifically created pro reads in response to all the negativity on the internet. He wanted goalies to be able to sit down and talk about what they were doing well so we can learn in a positive light. And as you know, I'm always talking about catching kids being good and how much that will help. So to all parents, goalies, and others out there, I do want to say, please be better. As we know, we need more kids playing goal and more parents to be okay with their kids playing goal. But more importantly, we're talking about kids, and out and out chirping might be rarer, but even that chatter in the crowd, it's not right. And in my mind, if you wouldn't say it to somebody's face, you shouldn't say it at all. Let's also be honest that it happens to players too. I know it's magnified a little bit as a goalie parent when you hear some of that chatter, but players deal with it too. You hear in the stands people wondering why such and such a forward is on the ice so much. We hear people talking about why is that defenseman out there on the penalty kill, even when ice time should be equal in minor hockey. And so players are dealing with people questioning things all the time, just as we are as goalies. So I just don't want people walking away from this thinking that if you're a goalie parent, you deal with things that others don't, because it's just difficult being a sport parent in general. And maybe it's magnified a bit for goalies, but it's difficult for athletes in all sports and parents in all sports. So what's my advice to goalie parents about this issue? I think in general, Bill has it right. It's probably why you can walk into any rink anytime and you see those people standing in the corner at ice level. And I'm always pretty safe walking up saying, oh, would you happen to be the goalie parent? It's a nice way for us to find each other in that little corner club there as we're away from the other fans, doing our best to support our kid as well. And whether it's in the corner with your kid or somewhere else, you want to be there for your child. Maybe in another session, I can talk about why it is that I moved away from standing in the corner, but that's a bit of a different issue. But let's not be part of the problem. One thing I would like to ask everybody is that when other parents talk to you about your child, and maybe it's couched in a positive way, hey, your little Johnny should be the one playing today, or anything else that comes across as complimenting your child, but it's kind of veiled criticism of their goalie partner, don't participate or feed in that at all. It feels good because you want your kid to be seen in a positive light, but we can't be out there helping other people criticize other goalies if we don't want them doing that to our child as well. We got to help that environment be better for everybody, including the players. So let's not be part of that chitter chatter about forwards and defensemen out there as well, even if we feel like having an excuse to blame somebody else for how our child's game is going. So as Bill suggested, maybe it's best just to walk away and be on your own so that you don't have to deal with some of that chatter. But where you can, everybody, please, let's do our best to make sport a better place for everybody. Let's support each other. Let's make the environment better for all kids and all families, because we know the whole point is we want them out there having fun, enjoying our great game.
Oh, man, I thought we were going to talk about throwing hands.
Well,
yeah, stick tap to Woody right away.
It's
that
pretty
was great.
It's pretty tempting, but I don't want to be on one of those viral Instagram videos throwing hands in the crowd, Woody.
Plus, I'm super soft, so I get my ass kicked.
It's tempting.
Well, if they're coming up to you and giving you the compliment by tearing somebody else down, you know that if your kid has a rough game, they're going to do the exact same thing to somebody else. So don't buy into it.
Yeah,
it's great advice, Hutch.
And don't be that person either. The other part is I do believe that it happens to players, skaters, more than goaltenders. It's magnified with goaltenders, but because there's more defensemen and skaters out there, that chatter tends to happen a lot more. So you're right not to just focus it on the person in the crease.
Yeah, it's definitely, look, it's tough as a goalie parent because you see the puck go in the net and you feel bad and you assume everybody's pointing at your child. But yeah, as you say, it happens to all kids. And I think even more now, as we've said before, as things are magnified on broadcast because there's a camera on every player and there's fancy stats being taken on every player, people get picked apart all the time. I really like it when we're watching the draft and people talk about what it is that kids do well. So let's really focus on the things that kids are doing well, and the rest of the stuff will take care of itself.
You're right. Woody has always been positive, even if there's something that's gone a little bit sideways with that particular athlete or that team. There has been the overwhelming emphasis to make sure that that the object or subject is portrayed in a positive attitude, which goes totally against Woody's actions on the ice. It's incredible. He's such a example of do as I say, not as I do. The ultimate example.
Woody's never negative, never.
Yeah, I don't know who this positive person you're talking about is, but he might be. I don't know how he's related to me. You know what I mean? I think you're right. Like Pro Reads was about all these people on the internet saying, "Oh, you should do this. You should have done that." And until you know what the goalie's thought process was, you can't say what was right, what was wrong, or where that breakdown occurred. And ironically, not to point out the other players, but like maybe he's in this position because somebody else is supposed to be in that position, and this is how the system works.
Team system.
And it started with basically just us wanting to give them the opportunity to explain it, and it quickly turned into, wow, you can learn a ton about how goalies read the game by watching this stuff. So it's worked out really well, I think, for us, and it's worked out. The goalies seem to really love it, and hopefully, well, so far, all the feedback says our audience does too.
And thanks to Bill Ranford, that on ice presentation at Tendy Fest, I've watched it 3 times. It's fabulous, and the gift of his interaction with parents and the goaltenders in the Q&A was awesome.
He's been a great person for InGoal from pretty much from day one. Remember, we had one of those, we had a virtual sort of gear segment where people could drop in and just chat with Woody about anything, and who just showed up without us even realizing he was coming, but Bill Ranford. It was, it's fun to see who shows up as part of the InGoal community.
And one of the coolest offices or man caves that I've ever seen.
Oh, yeah.
The coolest.
Which is fantastic. Go back and listen. Yeah, we should post a picture of that someday. With all his jerseys and masks out there. Let's get into the NHL Sense Arena feature interview. Woody, this week you chat with Alex Cavallini, a 2-time Olympian from the U.S. Women's National Program.
Yeah, 6 World Championships, 5 gold medals from the World Championships. Not playing right now with the national women's team. A new mom. We talked about that process, and about how that perspective changes. We caught up with her at the USA Hockey National Goaltending Symposium. So a lot of the conversations were about, kids getting into goal and how we sort of get more kids playing goal in the United States. And so as a new mom, she had some perspective there. Just a fantastic conversation from somebody who had a really remarkable career with USA Hockey and from college. And, maybe from a technical side, didn't have a lot of instruction early on. So there's tons of lessons in here from our conversation with Alex Cavallini. I really enjoyed it. And for those that maybe don't recognize the Alex Cavallini, Alex Rigsby before she got married. So Alex Rigsby Cavallini, that might resonate for few more people that remember watching her as Alex Rigsby at so many of these international tournaments.
Now, a message from NHL Sense Arena with the opportunity to grow your game off the ice, especially during this offseason.
I was thinking, listening to Kevin and Alex speaking about finding ways to have more people enjoy goaltending. And I thought, how could we get Sense Arena in the hands of more young kids so that they could see how cool it is to be a goalie? Might be a really good avenue for Sense Arena helping our game grow. But right now, it's summertime and pretty much all kids are finished school now. We've had a little bit of time to rest, relax, have a little bit of fun. And I think people are thinking about next season now. We've got less than 2 months to go probably before you're back to work on the ice, trying to make that team that you want to be a part of this year or trying to have the best season you've ever had. And NHL Sense Arena is an invaluable tool at this time in the summer. It's a little tougher to find some ice unless you're headed off to a great goalie camp or something like that. But you can train at home 15, 20 minutes a day and become a better goalie as a result. I think it's a tool that so many goaltenders are employing today, right up to the National Hockey League, that you really want to get your hands on it if you want to have the best summer you can possibly have. By all means, go to a goalie school this summer, but it's pretty hard to do that for 2 straight months. But you can get on the ice with some of these guys One of the great things about NHL Sense Arena, like a goalie school, is you have your training handed to you. You can open up the training plans that are available there from great coaches like Brian DeCord, or even Bill Ranford has a training plan in NHL Sense Arena. Brian's son Joey has his warm-up you can go in and do there. You've got off-ice coaches like Maria Mountain in there with programs. There's so many teachings available in NHL Sense Arena. There's so many tools in there that it can get a little confusing. I think, what do I do next? You can just listen to one of these great coaches. It's like you've signed up for your own goalie school every day of the summer. So head over to sensearena.com or visit Sense Arena on the MetaQuest store and give it a try this summer, and you can have your best season ever coming this fall.
It is the NHL Sense Arena feature interview on InGoal Radio, the podcast. Alex Cavallini with Kevin Woodley.
Really excited to welcome to the InGoal Radio podcast, Alex Cavallini. Used to be Rigsby, and then I saw Rigsby Cavallini. Now we're full Cavallini.
We are full Cavallini. Basically, just Rigsby Cavallini would need to reference something from my past year, but did the full change, got married, and just went all in.
I just had to do that because my wife still kept her name. So it's just, I don't take it personally at all, but, just, I got to bring it up every once in a while.
Yeah, totally.
Catch us up on where you're at. We're here at the USA Hockey National Goaltending Symposium Expo. You've been at the presentations as well over at sort of the symposium side of things. Been a little while since we saw you on the international stage. You're a new mom now. Just catch up the audience who, everybody recognizes the name. We know what you've done both internationally and in women's hockey, but just catch us up a little bit right now and then we'll dig back into the career.
Perfect. Yeah. So I'm in St. Louis, Missouri, got a 1.5-year-old and just been living the mom life. Working as an ambassador with the St. Louis Blues and doing some stuff with the Chicago Blackhawks as well. So it's been really fun to stay involved, but also be able to stay home and spend time with my daughter and raise her. But here this weekend in Minnesota, had a mom's weekend out and flew up here. And yesterday on Friday, I was able to catch some presentations yesterday, and it's just I'm still having to remind myself that I am in a room full of goalies, and so that's been pretty remarkable to see all these people come together and share their different insights and beliefs and ways that they think that they can help improve goaltending, and from anywhere from trying to get more goalies involved to different techniques on the ice. So it's been really fun to be a part of and just to get to talk goalie all weekend.
And just out of coincidence, you happen to be in town as the PWHL Minnesota team rolls back with a Walter Cup. I saw that you got to catch up with Nicole and Maddie last. How exciting has that been for you to see the growth of that this year in a unified league?
Oh my gosh, it couldn't have worked out better. I feel like that was just a bonus to the weekend, and it was so much fun. The girls had their welcome party or celebration, I should say, last night where they were at the Excel Center, and I got to watch them, talk about their season and how proud they are and the fan base. And that was what was truly remarkable to see, was how many people showed up and how excited they were to meet these players and these role models that these young girls and boys get to look up to, and just seeing how much pride they're taking in this role that they have, where they're stopping and talking to all the fans and signing autographs and taking pictures and just being present with the fans is so incredible. And for them to come out this year as the Walter Cup champions was really, really fun. And it was so much fun catching up with my former teammates and getting to hear kind of their insights from the season and how awesome it was and how excited they are for the next season already.
Okay, and of course you would have played them on national teams. The state where we're at right now, it's funny, you mentioned seeing the impact that they have and the crowds that they get here in Minnesota. It's phenomenal. But you've had that impact. I'm watching here at this expo as goalies come up and talk to you and want to talk to you and ask you about your career. Where are we now? As we sort of walk through the progression, are we at a great spot? Are we continuing to build this step that they took this year? So it's not just at the Olympics, it's not just at World Championships. Where do you see the signs of biggest growth, and where do you see it going?
I think we've hit a huge growth. I mean, I text Kendall Coyne Schofield and I say congratulations, and the first thing she says is we wouldn't be here without everyone before us and the work it took to get to this point. So she is a person who is forefront of this charge of creating this league, and has such a good grasp on understanding that it was so many people behind the scenes to get here, and so many different players. And I think it's just been so incredible to see that success of this season where they're breaking attendance records, and, for these players to be able to play, all these games in the season and then to go and play at the national level as well. I think it's just continue to elevate the game. And I think you see that by watching the World Championships this year. I mean, it was such fast-paced, intense games and physical games as well. And so I'm so excited for the future of women's hockey because these players are able to play all these extra games, have this incredible training programs and coaching, and it's just going to keep elevating. And I am so excited for women's hockey.
I've had both of them on the podcast before, as well as some of the other players from the PWHL. They all talked about the same thing, just the support, that they're not doing it at odd hours and practicing at odd hours. I mean, Minnesota practices here at TRIA, shares the space with the Minnesota Wild. Like, the support staff, whether it's training off the ice or having a goalie coach, like, all of these things are positives. Is it tough at all for you, having just sort of, moved away from the game, to see it? Like, is there a little bit like any temptation to get back in there, or?
Oh yeah. Like,
is it?
I think about it. I think it's crossed my mind probably once a day since becoming a mom. I mean,
I'm sorry to be the part of the day today that makes it cross your mind.
You're great. It's, we knew we were ready to start a family. I went into the last Olympics knowing that it could be the last time I ever put on a USA jersey, just because my husband and I were just ready for that next step and wanted to start a family. And, I was fortunate to get pregnant, and throughout my pregnancy, I had the clear communication with USA Hockey that I had the full intention of trying to come back and make this team. And I trained so hard through my pregnancy. I wasn't able to be on the ice like a player would, just because, as a position of goaltending, it's just too risky with shots and stuff. And so I was so proud of myself. I was able to come back and try out for the 2023 World Championships, and I was 3 months postpartum.
Wow.
Felt amazing. Felt great. So proud of how I competed. And unfortunately, my name didn't make the roster. And so that was kind of the end of the road for me. So, I still wanted to continue. I threw my name in the PWHL draft and didn't get selected, which was totally fine, just because, I'm at that position where it's hard to move with a family. I have a husband who has his job in St. Louis. And
so you were you had very clear focus on one or two.
Yep. So yeah. And then we started to be open to other things, but it just didn't work out. And, I think a lot about, did I make the right decision of not trying to pursue it more? But I wouldn't change anything with where I'm at. Yes, it's so hard to see, that nice shiny product on TV where, they're breaking these attendance records and having 24,000 fans watching them and all this stuff. And you see how excited they are. But at the end of the day, I'm so happy with where I'm at as a mom and being able to raise a beautiful baby girl. And it's so much fun. But it's one of those things where the players who are coming out of college are never going to experience the grind that we went through as an older generation of players, where, you bring up the training where we had to make our own schedules. Like, every week I was like, okay, when am I working out? When can I get ice? And you're emailing the rink people and you're coordinating with your goalie coach and trying to find practices to go on. And it was a grind. And I say it in the best way, that I'm so happy that these girls who graduate from college are never going to have to experience that they get to graduate, and if they want to continue to play and they're capable of playing, that they get to keep playing. So it's just so cool to see.
And cool to be, as Kendall Coyne Schofield said to you, to be a part of the people that created this, that got the sport to this point. So when you look back at your career, so many world championships, Olympics, like what are the moments that jump out the most to you?
It's always those team moments. It's like the things in the locker room and the winning the big games. You know, you miss that so much. And I was talking to Lee Steckline last night, and it's like, man, like to be 24 again and being on the national team and, you know, to be a young one. And it's just like, it's crazy how fast it goes. But there was so many incredible memories. It was a grind. Like we went through a lot of stuff, but to be able to do it with your teammates and to know that, you know, you're going to put this effort in and do this grind, but then you get to be rewarded with making a world championship team and winning a gold medal and winning an Olympic gold medal. Like it's all worth it. And to do it alongside your best friends who become your sisters and family away, like, you know, you miss so much when you're on that path, but you get to have these memories that I would have never experienced if I wasn't able to have that, you know, that path of being able to travel all over the world alongside these women.
Okay, so growing up in Wisconsin, where did this all start for you? Like, where did the passion for goaltending start?
It started when I was 5 years old. We did the whole rotational goalie equipment thing, and I wore the gear for the first time, and I was like, this is it, and I want to do this again. And my parents were like, absolutely not. Like they were mortified, just like the typical parent who is. And I think, you know, just even being here this weekend, I think it's just something that we need to educate parents on more. Like my parents loved being goalie parents, but like, you know, you talk to other people like, oh, you don't want your kid playing goalie. And there's this whole like stereotype around the position that I think that just needs to be broken. And I think there needs to be more information provided to these parents. And, you know, I was so fortunate growing up that I had an organization who provided goalie equipment. So my parents didn't have the burden of paying for, you know, my equipment until I think I got my first set of pads that my parents purchased when I was in 8th grade. So I was so fortunate, you know, to have that support. But I think just educating parents, like my parents will say, like they loved it. They loved watching me play. They wouldn't trade it at all. My two brothers were forwards. So it's just, you know, they loved that experience. And so it started when I was 5 with the equipment, and then I was a full-time goalie. Then I was rotating. So like week on as a player, week on as a goalie. And I think that was so important for my development as a hockey player as well.
In what sense?
In just the sense that I became more aware of the game. You become a skater. You have to understand different situations and, you know, how to play on a power play, how to play on a penalty, how to break out. You know, it just gives you more knowledge of the game. And so I think that's so important for young goalies to not jump into the position too soon, even if that is something that you want to do. I think that's amazing that you're choosing goalie, but I also think that before you go in fully as a goalie, you need to make sure that you have a good sense of the game and be able to be a good skater as well. And so, yeah, by the time I was 10, my now father-in-law, I showed up with player gear to a practice, to a skills practice. And he asked me, it was my first year on a AAA boys team. And he asked me, he's like, all right, what position are you here to play for on this team? And I was like, well, goalie. He's like, all right, I never want to see your player gear again here. I'm like, all right, noted. So that was the start of me being a full-time goalie.
So it's funny, we heard a presentation from College Hockey Inc. on the first day about, on the women's side, playing boys versus playing just, and the options have increased for girls to stay. Like, walk us through your history of playing on boys teams. Was there points where you had to make decisions on that? Is it different now, maybe a few years later? Are there more options, you think, when you like, is your daughter going to grow up with more options to just play against other women, or would you still recommend playing against boys?
I think it's situational, but 100%, there are so many more options now. I mean, just a prime example for when I was learning to play hockey, there was the only other girl in the organization was Brianna Decker, who ended up being, you know, an incredible player on the U.S. women's national team. And so Bri and I grew up playing with each other. We played part-time girls for a few seasons as we were playing AAA boys hockey. And then we played, AAA boys hockey together. And so I was so fortunate to have her as a friend since I was 9 years old. And so it was us against the boys. And I think the options now to play on these different girls teams is incredible. And I think a prime example is that I'm an ambassador with the St. Louis Blues, and one of the programs that they run is their Learn to Play program. And so after they do Learn to Skate, they can sign up for this Learn to Play program where they can get equipment, head to toe gear, get their ice time, and then they come out to these sessions. And when I first started doing it with them, there was 8 girls on the ice. And the last session we had was 38 girls, all learning to play hockey. Like, it's just a testament to programs like the St. Louis Blues who are wanting to grow the sport of hockey, no matter if you're a boy or a girl, and they're behind it. And so it's so cool to see all these little girls getting to learn to play a sport with other little girls. Like, it's so cool to see. And so I'm so excited to get my daughter in the sport if she wants to. Of course not going to be like that crazy parent that like, my kid has to play hockey. But I think there's probably a good chance that she's going to. My husband played as well. But again, as long as she's playing a sport, we're good. But I just am so excited for her and her future that, she gets to go to the rink with other little girls. But you asked a question about playing boys versus girls. I think as a goaltender, with me being able to play boys, I played boys AAA hockey until I went to college. And I think that is what propelled my career. I think that is the reason why I was successful. I always was having to prove to the boys that, I deserved to be there. I couldn't take a night off. I, had to work my butt off to get where I got. And that path to me was the best path. But again, it's situational as well. Like, you have to make sure that you're safe. You're not going to get injured. And so I think as a player, if you do have the option to play boys hockey and like you feel like that's your best, then go for it. If you can compete with the boys, I would do that. And, not to say that there's not competitive girls team in any way, but if you're in an area where you're like, my girls team isn't as strong and I can play boys, then try it if you can. Like, and I think I mentioned my father-in-law too. I think what was so special about having that relationship growing up is that he always viewed me as a hockey player, and he'll be the first to say that he coached Brianna Decker, he coached Kendall Coyne Schofield, and he said, I looked at them as hockey players. I never looked at them, I never looked at the gender. I just looked at them as great hockey players, and I wanted to coach them. So I think that's super special.
I love that. Try hockey.
Mm-hmm.
You're out there. Are you try goalie? We're gonna have. Are you gonna be leading the chart? I will say one of the numbers that shocked me coming to this week. I was so impressed with how many goalie coaches they've developed through the Bronze program. There's that much access out there. But I was a little surprised at how few goalies there are compared to registered players. So do we need you to lead the charge in St. Louis to make sure that we need some try goalie events out there?
Oh, my wheels were turning with that. I know Steve has done a program before with Steve Thompson,
Yep.
who's heading this goalie symposium here in Minnesota. And I know he's done a program with the Boston Bruins. I believe it was a try goalie thing, and it looks super successful. And I'm like, okay, I need to get this involved here in St. Louis. So hopefully we can chat it over and get something in the works, because I think it would be really cool to see, St. Louis develop some great goalies. And I mean, they have Jordan Bennington there, who goalies love to look up to, and Brian Elliott, who is through there. It's been really cool. I'm friends with Brian, and it's been cool when I talk to people and like, oh, Brian Elliott, without them even knowing I have any sort of relationship with him, saying, oh, I started playing back when Brian Elliott was here because of him. And so that's always really cool to see, especially with having, the St. Louis Blues in the city.
Okay, so I got to pull on that thread a little bit, because I feel like one of the things that from this weekend that I've kind of learned, and like I feel like we have a marketing problem as goalies, as you said, like the stigma of parents being worried about it. And I understand the costs and things, but like we're the cool ones, aren't we? Like the Brian Elliott's, Carey Price used to move the needle so much in Montreal and across Canada. But like kids should want to be doing what we're doing. No, like what are we missing here that we're not getting more kids to play goalie naturally?
I just think that there's just such a stigma around it. I think that there's always goalies are so weird, and I always get you're a normal goalie, and I'm like, yeah, and I know a lot of normal goalies. Yeah, there's a few oddballs, and people have their quirks, but that's what makes them special, and that's what makes them good, and I think it's more celebrating that, and I think you can't win without a good goalie, and so I think, and it's such a fun position to play, and I think if you can kind of get people more excited and interested in the position and kind of understand it more, I think that would be really helpful because it is a complicated position. And my husband will be the first to say it. I mean, he played hockey at the University of Wisconsin, and after his career was done, I named him my personal shooter. Like, he was hired on, and so he was working and he was still shooting on me at goalie lessons. He's like, man, like, I never realized how complicated the position is. And he's like, I wish I would have known more about this when I was playing. He's like, I think I would have scored a few more goals in my college career. I mean, he didn't have a ton. So I think, to have that kind of perspective and having more of an understanding for the position, I think more people would get involved.
Maybe that's how we get more goalies, is by letting the shooters understand that they could benefit by doing things with the goalies, and maybe having more practices that aren't so harmful to goalies will also be helpful for the shooters.
Yeah, like that's something that I love chatting with my teammates. Someone comes right to mind is Brianna Decker again, where she and I would have great conversations. Same with Kendall Coyne-Schofield. They would ask me questions. Hillary Knight, like, hey, what are you seeing on this? Like, how can I be better here? And so I think that's always so important, is having that relationship with your players and goalies, being like, oh, the goalies don't know anything. It's a different position. It's like, no, goalies see a lot. Goalies know and understand the game. And if you don't, you're not going to get it to a high level. Like, if you're just focused on your own position, you're not going to understand the patterns and, different things that are involved in the game that are going to help you be the best goalie you can be.
Patterns. Mitch Korn is my favorite line. Goalie is a game of patterns, not shots.
Mm-hmm.
Learning to read them. For you, like, that was a strength of your game. To me, that would be. I don't know if you'd agree.
Yeah.
Where did that come from? How did you develop it?
Yeah, the first time I started hearing that was actually with my goalie coach, Larry Clemens, and he's friends with Mike Valley, and so started hearing that when I was out of college, and then it was a complete mind switch, and it helped me so much with my game, understanding where it was like, okay, like, this shooter's coming down here, they're going to do this or that. Most likely this is it. And so it simplified my game a lot, and also made me more excited to be a student of the game. And I think that's something that came on later in my career, like I said, after college, but really honing in on the whole idea of being a student of the game came later. And that's the thing that I think has been the hardest for me of being done, is that with hockey at this point, is that I'm like, I had more to give. Like, I know that
you were still figuring a lot of that out.
I was figuring it out. I feel like as a mom, especially, you have this different mom superpower too. So I think that would have totally benefited.
I think it should be superpowers. Moms have superpowers. Many.
So I think, just being the student of the game really elevated my game as well.
Now, did you you come to that realization a little later? Then I didn't realize that.
Mm-hmm.
Were you just using experience, like recognizing things in practice or from all the games you played? Or did you watch more hockey? Were you studying things, or did it just sort of, you were starting to approach what you saw on the ice with a different mindset? Yeah.
So I feel like I always was able to have really great reads.
Okay.
And I was very quick. And just through my young career, when I was youth and then going into college, same thing. I feel like I was just so competitive, and that was really what gave me my edge. And I was really good at reading the shots and reading the plays. But then coming into being able to really understand the patterns, that really elevated my game. And so then I started watching a lot more hockey, I would say, in my post-grad career. I didn't watch a ton of hockey when I was younger, and I really regret that. And so even right now, like I watch so much hockey, and it's so fun looking at it in a different perspective too, because I did hone in a lot as a goalie, just watching the goalie's movements and, taking the shots and stuff. And now I watch the game with like a totally different perspective, and I'm watching the overall plays that are developing and the threats that are happening. And so it was definitely like a switch that occurred, and it was a great one to have.
You mentioned Larry. Was that when did you go from just playing to that coaching? When you start to add some of the technical elements to your game, and who were some of the sort of mentors along with Larry along the way that helped you sort of develop the technical side?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, like the thing that was so great about working with Larry was that he just let you play. So it really wasn't super technical, but he would do it it was technical, but he was never over technical. Like he knew that I was a goalie that needed to just play as well. So we would do a bunch of, skill development and movements and things like that, but he wouldn't really correct me until there was an issue. So he just let me play, and then he would also challenge me in ways of the way we talked about things. And I think that was so beneficial as well.
Can you give me an example that you can recall? Sorry, putting you on the spot there, but
so for instance, I would say that we really honed in. He was the first person to introduce RVH for me.
okay.
So I feel like that was the first time that I was really like, okay, there's patterns involved, where we would hone in and figure out, all right, so when the player is in this area between this and this mark, this is when you're capable of being in your RVH. When there's these threats here and here, our VH is going to be more beneficial, or just holding your post on your feet. So things like that were
so you're adding technique, but situationally.
Situationally, yes. So, and I think that just being able to like talk things through. So like instead of just going, especially as like an older goalie at that point, instead of just going boom, 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 boom through reps, as much as I love that, we would be able to like, all right, let's just like take a little break, and we'd just be chatting, and I'd ask questions, and then we'd move on. And so I think, yeah, just finding those different situational pieces was really beneficial.
Okay. And moving when you start getting into the national team program, moving on there, different voices, different impacts, different people offering you. This can be a tough thing for goalies at all ages, especially as they move up. New voices, new techniques, new ideas. How do you stay true, especially as a goalie who played on such a read-react basis? How do you stay true to who you are? How do you find your foundation while still being open to new ideas? Are there any examples along the way where that worked or didn't work?
Yeah, I mean, we had a lot of different goalie coaches throughout my time with the national team, and I guess not a lot of main ones. We would have, coaches come in for camps.
Yeah. Which is can you change things in a camp, or is it you just introduce ideas?
Yes and no. I think that was really great when you can talk to coaches and kind of fine tune things, or, find a new tool and be open to it. And I think that was so important. And then there was some times where I didn't agree with what the coach was wanting me to do. And I think that, was hard at times. It's, I don't play a style of, playing a 2-pad stack, and I was being told to do a 2-pad stack, and it didn't go well. So I try to stay true to my game and hone it in different ways. And, it didn't always work out for me.
I mean, how do you manage, like, any advice for young goalies that might get put in that situation where there's something that you're being asked to do and you want to be a good student, but it's not working? Like,
yeah.
Because navigating that's not easy.
No, it's not. And I think, it's just, being able to have trust in a goalie coach, I think is so important. And, 100% try things. And I think that was what was so great when Steve Thompson came along within the national team program, is we would talk through things, and we had that trust of, if you don't do this and it does not work for you, that is okay. It is not my way or the highway.
Right.
So when you work with a goalie coach who it's my way or the highway, that's a hard thing to navigate. And I think as a young goalie, I think you you know, you need to be true to who you are, but I think you also do need to be open to trying new things. But I also think as a goalie coach, you need to have that respect for your goalies and be able to, you know, even if they're not picking up on something and understanding something, maybe reword it in different ways. I'm a person who loves to ask questions. And if you can't answer the questions for me, I'm not going to be able to grasp it. I'm not going to understand what you want me to do. And if you can't explain to me how this is going to help my game, I'm probably not going to grasp that.
So because I said so isn't enough. You need an explanation of why it's going to work for you.
Yep,
That's
exactly.
fair.
Yeah.
Last one. Talked about coaching. We're at a goalie coaching symposium. Like, would you ever come back in that capacity? Would you look at that? Is that something that interests you at all? As you start getting involved, as your daughter gets into it? What do you think?
Yeah, you know, I've been pulled to try to be a goalie coach in St. Louis and work with different youth organizations. And at this time in my life with a young daughter, I'm just not at that point. But I'm sure when if she starts playing hockey or if she's playing soccer, whatever it may be, I'm sure that, you know, I'll jump into coaching if needed and help her. But and
like,
so,
do you want to stay involved with the game, or like not everybody does, right? Like,
yeah, I want to stay involved, and I think that's why this position with, you know, the Blues as an ambassador in the Blackhawks right now has been so great, is because I get to be involved, but it's not at a strenuous capacity. So
it's not all encompassing. It's not taking you away from more important things, right?
Yes, exactly. And you know, I think it would be really cool to work with goalies, and especially at an elite level. You know, when you have been at that elite level, you love just talking at a high level with goalies,
share experiences
and share the experiences. And, you know, it's so fun when you get to fine tune something and then you see it click and it works out. It's awesome. It's the best.
Advice on handling big situations too. I mean, you've been in them all, right? Like how do you handle a nervous moment or a stage that you've never been on before?
You have to trust yourself. You have to believe in yourself. You have to embrace it all. You know, you've put in the preparation, you've put in the work. You have to now just let yourself play. And I think that's the best, is like when those high pressured situations come up, I loved them, you know, and I think just, yeah, I would get nervous. Like I'd get the butterflies in my stomach before the games, but that's when I knew I was ready. That's when it was like, okay, I'm dialed in. I know what I need to do and have some fun out there at the same time. Cause, you know, especially as I got older in my career, knowing that I'm coming on the end. And like I said, I knew I wanted to start a family. And so, especially at the end, just finding that joy again, thinking back to how you were in youth hockey and how much fun you had. That's what I would try to find the joy in hockey. It's just a game. And I would just think about how much fun I was having with like my best friends on the ice. And so I think when you find that joy, those big pressured situations don't feel as big pressured.
Great advice. Great interview. Thank you so much for your time, Alex. Really enjoyed this. Really appreciate it.
Of course. Thanks for having me on.
I love the conversation about getting more people to play goal.
Yeah, it's an important one, you know, and it's, it's funny because I still find myself doing some of the stereotypical joking around, you know, why it's so tough to have a kid who's a goalie, and I shouldn't. None of us should. Like, the reality is it's a great position and we need to get more kids playing it because it is a challenge. We have goalie shortages in a lot of nations right now, including the United States. It was a big part of the conversation at the USA National Goaltending Symposium, but you'd be naive to think it's just there. You know, we talk a lot about, there is a tendency, I think, sometimes to focus too much on the negatives. And as Hutch said in the parent segment, it's not like goalies are the only one who face those types of criticisms. We just tend, I think, to hear about it more. So it's important to maybe shift the way we talk about goaltending. And that includes myself. Goaltending needs a little more good PR. And if it can't get it from guys like us who are fully invested in the goalie union, then something's wrong. So I'm trying to shift my attitude. Hutch is doing a great job of keeping me on the right track with his parent segments. And especially in the United States right now, they're doing a lot of great things with quick change gear, try goalie seminars, a lot of opportunities to make sure that kids haven't made the choice not to play goal at far too young an age, which also makes sure you don't miss out on the best athletes for the position.
Best athlete, that's a conversation that has been going on for a decade and a half now. And I think it's really paved some solid inroads to try and get the best player on the team, the best athlete on the team to play goal. And we've seen examples of it throughout. So just a recap, busy time over at InGoalMag.com.
A ton of stuff. A ton.
Yeah, it's been a crazy few weeks, but there's so much stuff for people to get into. Whether it's the stick taping video, and I think we got another one coming down the pipe fairly soon. Whether it's those videos with Bill Ranford, the skating with Bob, and yeah, so many things up our sleeve. And summer's a great time to collect more of that stuff. It's really exciting to see how many people are enjoying the content now.
I was wondering how Woody was wearing a long sleeve shirt today. He's got all that stuff stuck up there.
Right, and then he's got to roll up his sleeves and get to work.
Yeah. Woody, have a great skate tonight.
I will. Well, if you don't hear from me, you know what happened. It's like the shark. It's like jumping in the water with the sharks. If you don't hear from me tomorrow, you know where I died.
So tell me what would make a good skate tonight.
Oh, that's a really, Matt, you're actually going to make me focus on this the right way rather than.
I'll give you the same advice I gave my kid when he went and played his first junior A game. Just keep it under 10.
I don't know that I'm going to tonight, but you know what? If I just feel like I'm moving well and nothing hurts at the end of it, Darren, and I'm seeing pucks and I make the odd save, it's a good skate. At the end of the day, after 3 months off or little more than 3 months off and rehabbing an injury, just to be out there is going to be a pure joy. I'm just so happy to be back on the ice and playing goal.
Great attitude, Woody.
Yeah, I'm excited for you, buddy.
Yep.
Have fun, pal. For Kevin Woodley, David Hutchison, and our entire production crew, I'm Darren Millard. Thanks for listening to InGoal Radio, the podcast.